Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Mixed Tag Show proudly brings to you Straight True Sundays with your boy Blue Magic. Now, I know it's been a while since we've done an actual live. If you haven't seen last week's episode, I had one of my best friends, DJ Nels, join us on the show. I don't know why I'm talking like this, but it's kind of funny. Anyway, so me and Nels kicked it back. He showed us how to make a homemade title belt. Talked about growing up as wrestlers, like wrestling fans, and getting into some trouble as wrestling fans as well. But it's been a pretty good episode. If you haven't had a chance to go ahead and check it out on YouTube, I will be posting it on IGTV this week. I know I'm kind of late on that, and I probably should have done that a little bit sooner, but we'll get to that eventually. But this episode's going to be directly saved into our IGTV, so you can watch this again later on if you're not live right now with us. But today I have Candace joining us today. Cordelia. I don't know if I'm saying her name correctly. Hopefully I am. This will be the first time interacting with her, and as always with Straight Shoe Sundays, we're going to talk about wrestling. We're going to talk about everything that we can, about life situations. Keep it nice and light, and not too long, because we got things to do on a Sunday, right? Right. Tonight's also going to be Elimination Chamber, so maybe we get some predictions from her as well. She's ready. Let's have her come on. As we wait for her to join us, I'm going to pull up the Elimination Chamber card to make sure we have the correct information. Hey, Candace.
Hey, what's going on?
How are you?
I'm good. This is the first time I'm doing IG Live, so
Oh,
I'm
welcome.
excited.
Thank you for letting me be your first person on IG Live.
Absolutely.
I don't know why. I've been talking like
Fine.
I've been talking like a newscaster through this whole thing. I don't know why.
That's good. That means you're on your grind. You're getting used to doing the broadcasting thing. So
Yeah,
take the compliment.
it's kind of weird. I'm like, yeah, ha ha ha. I'm like, I don't know where this is coming from. So for everybody that doesn't know you, tell them what you do exactly.
Yes, so I am an on-camera host, interviewer, journalist, and I also do acting, but I work predominantly in wrestling as well as entertainment. So I am writing for bustle.com, and I am also doing on-camera interviews for a sports website called In the Zone. So if you guys are able to check that out, definitely go to inthezone.io. And I recently interviewed Zach Clayton. He is a professional wrestler. He's also known as Jenny J. Wow Farley's boyfriend, but we like to talk about the wrestling aspect. So I recently interviewed him, and I will be putting up an interview video with Darius Carter, if any of you guys are familiar with Darius Carter. Yes, he is fantastic. So look out for that.
I'm definitely trying to get him as one of my episodes for Straight Shoe Sundays as well. He's I know he recently came off of an injury, correct?
I believe so. But
it was mainly during the pandemic, so.
Yeah, and he's such a professional. Like, Darius is he's fantastic. And I'm not just saying that because he's a friend of mine, but he really is a fantastic human being and wrestler. And he's been in the business for quite some time, and he's still going strong. So, I'm definitely looking out for him in terms of big things. I know he's going to shock and surprise people with what he has in store. So, yeah,
I'm hoping to get him on before he goes too far to the moon.
I'm telling you, you better get on it.
Like, I don't know if you know Carly Bravo.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
He's been on here with us. He's like,
wow.
he did. Actually, I got him on the day of when they shot their Nightmare Factory episode.
Oh my gosh, yes.
When I booked him, it's fine. I'm probably gonna be adjusting mine as well. When I had him on, we didn't know that he was gonna do that. I just knew that he graduated from the Nightmare Factory. He's a dope rapper. If you haven't heard his music, check it out. Like, me and my wife was listening to it in the car, and it was just like, yo, this guy is pretty dope. So check out his music if you get a chance. But yeah, like, I just wanted to have him on because I seen that he's transitioned from being a rapper. And he got on. I was like, yo, I just found out that I'm going to be recording for the Tony Khan tonight. And it was just like, what? Like, oh my
God. Oh my gosh. Oh goodness. I was just talking about him the other day too, because the same thing, I saw him on that Nightmare Factory showcase. Right. And I got to check that out along with a bunch of their other, trainees. And as soon as I saw him come out his entrance, I was like, he's a star. He has it. And then he ended up on AEW Dark, I think like 2
Yes.
weeks or so
Yeah.
after. And I was
So
like,
he's teaming up actually with my frat brother Sean Dean,
oh my
so I'm
God.
also trying to get Sean Dean on the show as well. I'm like, yo, we're frat, but part of the same organization. Can I get you on? But so they created a tag team called the Infantry. Is
Okay.
it am I saying it right? The Infantry? Yeah, I think it's the Infantry. But I'm gonna double check that. But but yeah, definitely they're teaming now. They have an official tag team. They did this whole thing with Shaw Dean was trying to find a tag team partner for a while. So when he teamed up with Carly Bravo, they came up with that because they both have military background.
Mm.
So it kind of worked. So they have this whole thing going on for them now, and it's really working for them. And I'm excited to see how far this goes, especially with Carly Bravo. Like you said, this is his first time training. So him being part of the Nightmare Factory was the first time ever he even stepped into a wrestling ring. So
What?
for him to take on for him to be the main event and take on a person like he did, and that's the person he wrestled on there was one of their infantry. It's called the infantry. So I was right.
I'm it up. That is
uh,
amazing. I'm telling you, like Sean Dean too. He was another one. When I saw
yeah,
him on AEW Dark, I was like, I'm here, and I love his entrance music. I love like he has everything. Just it's like Top Gun to me type vibe. Like I just
right.
really like what he's doing. So both of them, kudos. I'm here for it.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to those two. Shout out to Brian Waters also on the check-in. I'm
Yes.
pretty sure I'm gonna have Brian Waters on here eventually, sometime in March probably. I have to reach out and pick a date for him as well. So other than wrestling, right? What got you into wrestling?
Great question. So several years ago, when I moved to the New York area, predominantly for acting, like I moved to New York to pursue more of my
From
acting career.
where?
From Philadelphia. So I'm originally from
Oh,
Philly.
okay.
Yeah. So it was like a 2-hour trip, not that far.
No, it's
But
not.
you
Nah.
know,
I'm in Jersey. I'm right in between. So
Oh, I used to live in Bayonne too. So I
really,
definitely, yeah, I'm familiar with Jersey City and Bayonne and Hoboken, that whole area. So yeah, I
yeah, I
kind of
was
miss.
kind of raised in Jersey City a bit too. So
Really?
yeah,
Okay. I heard
yeah.
Jersey City changed a bunch though. Like it changed, like maybe in the past 10 years, it used to be completely different from what it
Uh,
is now.
Downtown Jersey City, yes, they're starting to build
Yeah.
more businesses and such, but the poverty still hurts the town, the city in
Mhm.
general. They need to do better in that aspect. But in terms of the business, they always take care of the business side first. The downtown, close to Hoboken, close to Bayonne, they'll take care of those. But the inner city, like where the people actually live at, still needs a lot of work.
Yeah. Oh, as most cities definitely, but
Yeah,
it'll get there. You know, gentrification is a real thing. So
for real.
I'm telling you. But yes, back to how I got started. So I moved to New York City, and I started off pursuing acting, but then I went kind of back to my journalism roots, and also doing on-camera hosting. So I ended up taking a really cool on-camera job, right in the heart of 42nd Street, Times Square, New York City. And I was doing like on-camera things and focusing a bit on business and entertainment news just in front of a green screen type thing.
Yeah.
And someone that I worked with was really, really into wrestling. And to be quite honest, at the time, and this was like 2015, I want to say 2015, 2016, I did not know that, and I'm gonna keep it real. I didn't know WWE was still like going on.
Right.
The last time that I was privy to it was when I was like in middle school, high school. So
Right.
his passion for it was just so big, and I was like, wait, what is happening? So I ended up watching a lot of WWE because of that. Because anytime someone shows me passion about something, it
Right.
just makes me really intrigued to know why they're so passionate about that thing. And sometimes I end up gravitating towards it, doing research, and sometimes I end up liking that subject because I'm just a naturally curious person. So I ended up watching a lot of WWE, and at the time it was all about like the Four Horsewomen. Paige was still active, and I fell in love with her and Natty, Naomi, and it was just really a sight to behold, seeing these women at the forefront, because growing up being aware of WWE, that wasn't a thing. It was
Right.
more the men. And I knew that women were in the company, but you know, at that time it was like bras and panty matches, you know. So, you know, I grew up with cousins and my brother and other male family members being really into like Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold and The Rock, and
Right.
my attention wasn't really on that at the time. But several years ago, I ended up, you know, watching a lot of it, going to shows because I was able to go to Brooklyn, check out NXT, go to Madison Square Garden.
Which takeover did you go to?
Oh my gosh, it might have been either the second or the third NXT show that they had in Brooklyn. So at the very, very start, when they were just
I've been to all of the takeovers in Brooklyn. So
yeah, I think it was like the second or third one they ever did.
Okay.
That might have been 2016.
Was that when I believe? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the episode when Apollo debuted? No.
I remember seeing Bailey and Asuka. So this was when Bailey was still in NXT.
Okay.
A little bit further, but she was definitely still in NXT. Asuka, I think, was just about to leave to go to the main roster. Yeah. And then I ended up seeing another NXT show in Philly. That was perhaps 2018. So a little bit. But in between, while I was watching, you know, these pay-per-views and everything, I remember there was one pay-per-view I watched and I saw Renee Young. And she was interviewing, and I immediately was like, wait, there are female interviewers in WWE? I was like, what is happening? Because growing up, I only knew Mean Gene. Like, Mean Gene was the man. Even if you weren't into wrestling, you saw him in commercials, and you knew who he was.
Always with Hogan.
Right. So I'm thinking, wait, hold on. And I'm watching her on the screen and I'm just so enamored. And I'm like, I love this. And me with my acting and my journalism background, I was like, I could do that. I just envisioned myself doing it. So I hit the pavement running and I started just doing research about different independent companies in New Jersey. Lo and behold, I had no idea the amount of independent companies that were in Jersey and New York. Like, I was kind of overwhelmed, but I just, by fate would have it, I just did a Twitter search, and I started searching. I just would type wrestling, Bayonne, Hoboken, Jersey City. I came across a wrestling company at the time called Capital Wrestling. I hit them up and gave them all of my, you know, materials, my headshot, resume, so forth, said, you know, can I come down? Do you need an interviewer? And like maybe 10-15 minutes after I sent that email, they contacted me back and were like, when can you come down to this show? So I went to a show in Jersey City. It was their second show. And as history has it, that's when it started for me. That's really when it all kicked off. And
that's awesome.
Then, yeah, it's just crazy how things happen. And since then, I was working with them. I ended up working with other promotions in the area in New York, like Battle Club Pro, and different shows Evolve when they were still running. I went there several years ago during like Mania and away from Mania and other months. And the amount of people that I met that I was able to interview, it's unbelievable, because little me, I'm thinking, I don't know who these people are. I'm just doing my research, and then I see them on television now in all these companies. Like, I just heard about JD Drake, you know, being on the next AEW Dark episode, and I was like, I remember when I interviewed JD and interviewed Eddie Kingston, and like, it's so cool. It's just so cool seeing everything unfold, and I'm just grateful, you know, to still be able to work while I'm at home and still meet really cool, talented people. So that's like the short version of everything.
No, that's awesome. We talked in the group chat. We have the whole Black Wrestling Alliance, and you know media people that we have on Twitter, DMs. We have our group. Like I said, I used to work for Hot 97, so I understand how the hustle and bustle of New York City and trying to find a way for your passion so you don't get stuck is. I'm proud of you coming out of Philadelphia. You take that risk to come out to New York, and I know that's like two different worlds. I've spent some time in Philly myself. What's the best place to get a cheesesteak, in your opinion?
I always get this question.
I know you do. I didn't want to ask, but I'm like, we have to.
It's so funny.
You have to.
I'm not gonna say Geno's, and I've had Geno's. I've had Pat's. I will always go for Pat's.
Really?
Pat's is better, in my opinion, because the bread is toasted and the way that they do everything, it's just, for me, it's wonderful. I will never.
You're giving me general answers. Like I told you, I spent some time in Philly. Nah, you giving me some general answers. Nah, don't give me no Geno's. Everybody know Geno's like the commercial. Everybody know the Pat is just, you know, the name. I'm talking about a real cheesesteak. Like, I'm going.
Well,
I need
that
a
is real.
John, like one of those.
Another, you know what? I will vouch for Jimmy Steaks on South Street. Their
Okay.
lines are always like
Yeah.
around the block, and for good reason because their steaks are amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. And then I guess like third place for me would be Ishkabibble's, which is
That's
also.
my favorite.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
really?
was
So you're
my
an
favorite.
Ishkabibble guy.
Yes, yes. I go to. I think me and my wife did Valentine's together in Philly. Not last year, but 2019. And I had to take it to Ishkabibble's. I'm like, yeah,
Oh,
we gotta have it then. Like we sitting in, we're eating right here. This before COVID, but you know.
yeah. Oh, that's nice.
So, but yeah, Ishkabibble's my spot.
That's cool. I hope it survives. I really hope that I have
Really? They're
it'll
having
be
some
okay.
issues.
What's up?
They're having some issues down there.
I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know
you
about
haven't been. Okay.
just speaking,
In
COVID
general,
while
yeah,
we're
yeah,
still,
yeah.
but I'm sure they'll be okay. I think the cheesesteak spots will be fine, but
Yeah.
a lot of other restaurants are, unfortunately doing too great. But yeah,
Same
thank
thing
you
in
for
Jersey.
yeah, I believe it. I believe it. So there's a light at the end of this tunnel. It'll all be okay. We just gotta hold
Yeah.
tight. But yeah, yeah. But thanks for shouting out Philly. I mean,
Yo,
we're
like
known as the stepchild in the shadow of New York. So
yo, I spent so much time in Philly. I have a love hate thing with Philly in terms of I hate you guys parking. Like I
understandable.
like the whole double
Understandable.
parking thing is
It's
I'm not a
horrible.
fan.
It's
I'm
horrible.
not no, sorry. So the reason why I
You're
used to
like,
spend that
no, I was gonna say you're well within your rights. There's a reason that I don't know if you ever watched that show Parking Wars. Is it part? I'm pretty sure it's Parking Wars. I don't know if it's still on, but a while back, that might be like a 6, 7 year old show. A lot of the episodes were in Philly because the parking is just horrible,
that
and yeah, it's bad. Philly, Baltimore was in it a bunch of times, but Philly definitely. Yeah, people here that are from Philly don't like to drive and park here, so we get it. We get it. You're good.
yeah. Shout out to my co-host Jenna. She just hopped into the chat.
Hey,
So
Jenna.
we're talking about Philly, and I think me and her dropping the episode either tomorrow, no later than Wednesday, because we're gonna do Elimination Chamber and everything like that. So make sure you look out for our new episode dropping this week. This past week we did another episode, so head over to our YouTube channel, Spotify, wherever you get the podcast is. The Mixed Tag Show. You see the name. That's us.
I love it. I love it. Oh, she's
um,
back.
yeah. She loves, like, she's one of those women that love to put women on the pedestal and really put women up front. So I'm pretty sure she's like enjoying this right now.
Bye. Let's go.
So in your time in Philly, did you ever have a chance to go into I guess House of Horror match like shows or
House of
ECW
Hardcore.
shows? Is it House of Hog? No, it's not Hog. Which one is
It's
it with
Hardcore. Hog is in I think Hog is in
Hog
Queens.
is in Queens.
Yes.
I'm talking about Tommy Dreamer and them.
Yep. That's House of Hardcore. Yes,
House of
yes.
Hardcore. There you go.
I
I seen the HOH. I'm
all
trying to see
good.
like what's the other H. What is it?
Yes, I went to one. The last show I went to was really great because, to be quite honest, and that might have actually been a 2018 show. There was like a convention beforehand, and then the show later at night. And I remember Britt Baker was in the show. Who else? I think David Arquette was in that show too.
Oh,
With
really?
RJ City. And that was my first House of Hardcore show. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. But it was so good. I just remember it being really, really entertaining. And then after that, I don't know what happened. I think they ran a few shows, but I don't know
Yeah.
still going on. I have no idea.
The last time I went to that arena, where
Mhm.
ECW used to be at,
Yeah.
I went for a Ring of Honor show, and that's when that was with, I believe, Cody was there.
Mm.
Cody was there. The Young Bucks was there. I think it was like the last Ring of Honor show type thing.
I might have been at that same show
When
because I was volunteering. I was working a show as a volunteer, and that was the same show that I remember. Yeah, Cody was there, Young Bucks.
was it Marty or is it Hangman?
Marty was there too.
And
Marty
then
Girl.
all I remember is Punishment Marcina is probably opened, or
That
did
had
it?
to be the same show. That's wild.
Yeah, So
Yeah.
this is my beef with Punishment Martinez because he had that match and it was terrible. And
God.
it was a botch fest, and I was with security. I was standing next to security, and security seen the match, and he basically laughed at the match. He was like, "This is what I came to watch." It made me feel so stupid for being there. And I'm like, you know what? I hate Punishment Martinez. He made me look stupid in front of regular people. Like
He is so tall. I've met him in
he
person.
is
And I'm 5'10", so if I'm saying that someone's tall, then
right.
I remember meeting him. I was like, whoa. Nothing wrong with that. I was like, okay, this is dope. But
Right.
that show, that Ring of Honor show, was hilarious to me because I stayed until the very end. I was helping to set up and everything, and then I stayed for the show. And I remember helping, like, I was in the corner, so I don't know if, I mean, only the people in the front where I was could have seen me. And it became like a running joke during the show where I was sitting on a chair. Like, I had a chair to sit, so I wasn't on the hard floor.
Right.
And every time I tried to sit on the chair, like, one of the talent would, like, do something. They would come out of the ring and do a move and try to take, they'd be like, don't mind me, I'm taking this chair to use it. And I'd be like, oh my God. But I don't know, it was a joke. It wasn't like they were doing it intentionally.
Right.
But it was hilarious because there was a point where there were a few guys and girls in the front, and we were talking and became friendly. And every time that happened, they were just like, girl, what's going on? Like, what's
Oh, I thought you was about to tell me that you were the girl that got hit in the front row. Because I know that during the match, one of the matches, so a guy, a wrestler got thrown over the safety railing, and one of the girls got kicked in the face. I thought you were about to say that you were the girl that kicked in the face. I'm about to say,
No, I remember that though. Oh my gosh, I
she
do
was
remember
leaking
that.
very badly.
Yes, that wasn't me though. That was not me. I was
Okay.
like crouched down.
Because I was
But that
also
was not me.
there was
Yeah.
also a night when the Yankees was in the playoffs, and I was sitting here trying to watch a Yankee game
Oh no.
on the TV by the concession stand.
Yes.
I'm watching the Yankees. I'm cheering for the Yankees, and I'm watching the wrestling. Like, and we was losing that night for the Yankees. I'm like, oh my God, like that night was very vivid for me.
You're talking to a big person. I'm not even big on baseball, but I'm just like, no, I gotta rep the Phillies, even though I'm not a huge baseball. So you Yankees fans can just like, sorry, you can buzz off.
Okay, all right.
It's all good. I mean it with love. It's all good. I'm
So
not hardcore. Like, I know people who are hardcore
yeah.
baseball fans. Like, they have their teams and that's it, and you can't tell them different. But yeah, it's cool with me.
So I know we talked a lot about WWE. Do you watch any other organizations, whether it be on TV, off TV, or anything like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's funny because since the pandemic started, I've watched, to be quite honest, way more AEW than WWE live. Like, I'll catch up with what's happening with WWE, like, if
On
I'm
a DVR.
around. Yeah, DVR or highlights, Hulu, whichever. And usually Twitter is a good indicator. If something has happened and I hop on Twitter, I'm like, okay, so maybe I need to
Yeah,
like
right.
jump on this because Twitter tells all. But yeah, AEW. I fell off a little bit with Impact. It's like up and down with me with that. So I have to really press myself to watch more of Impact, especially because Jazz, who's amazing, I interviewed her
That's
last month.
somebody else on my list.
Yes.
You're naming a lot of people that's on. I need to find your contacts
Yeah.
because you're naming a
Just hit
lot
them
of people that's on
up.
my list.
Just hit them up.
I
For
did.
real.
I think I sent Jazz an email like
Yeah.
last year when I first started this, or maybe before this. I have to double check my email, but I'm pretty sure I reached out to Jazz definitely.
Yeah, just keep at it. She's busy though. She's super busy.
Oh, I know.
Retirement tour, and she's doing like a billion things. So just be persistent. Don't take offense. Like,
I know, and I don't take offense to none of this. I know,
yeah,
coming from the music industry, I know how busy things are. If you don't have a
exactly.
direct connect to the person, then sometimes you're not going to be able to see the email. Especially when you have like
Very-
fans emailing you, media
Yeah,
outlets, and then you got the spam bots from Twitter, and you got all of that. But the
exactly.
thing with Jazz is that, like you said, like to me, it's like one of those unsung legends.
Right?
I talked about it on Twitter. I don't know if it was in the group or was it directly on Twitter about how Jazz transcended women wrestling back in the day and never got any props for it. But yet, we're constantly talking about Trish Jazz, we're constantly talking about Lita, but we never really talk about Jazz and Jacqueline, who also were very prominent during that time and really wrestled in the ring before anybody. They'll WWE, I feel like, in my opinion, WWE were quick to show when Jacqueline was in a bikini, but they will not show her best matches. And they won't do the same thing with Jazz. They just act like she never existed, period. And she was the first person to come from ECW, pinned the guy in ECW, came to WWE and dominated. So, like, to me, I feel like those are like the unsung people that, for whatever reason, they don't get the flowers as much as they should. When we get the same people over and over again, no disrespect to, Molly Holly and them, but there was more than just them that
Yeah,
contributed to that era. I was glad to see Victoria this past time, but I'm sorry, I could get off my soapbox. But just
no,
Jazz, it's like Jazz.
yeah,
That's one of the people I'm really mad at. They don't give the respect that she deserves.
I agree. I mean, when I interviewed her, we talked a lot about this in terms of, I mean, for one, she still to this day questions why she never got the merch that she thinks she deserves, rightfully so, and an action figure, because she really helped to elevate the women's division. And you're absolutely right, in my opinion. I mean, we talk about Lita and Trish Stratus and Victoria, Molly Holly and Kelly, and all these
Right.
other all these other prominent women who have done their part to help elevate the women's division to what it is today. But there would be no divas. There would be no, I'm going to say there would be no Bianca or Naomi or a
Right.
lot of these women if women like Jazz didn't pave the way. So, and I'm sure 100% those women, they understand that. They see it. They respect someone like Jazz. So I don't understand, what the deal is in terms of talent like Jazz, that it seems like she's overlooked in a way.
Right.
But the fans know. That's the thing. The fans are well aware of her legacy and what she's done and what she continues to do. So why can't she have, an action figure? Why can't she have merch? I don't understand that. And I don't know if, we talked about the whole lawsuit thing. I don't think that is really a factor, because her name, I remember doing research and her name was kind of mentioned within it, but it's not really, to me, it's not really a factor. It's
Was
more of
this
a
a CTE?
non-factor.
Was it a CTE
Yeah, it
lawsuit?
was the CTE lawsuit, which ironically, if you've been looking at the news over the past few days, it's back. They're taking that case to the Supreme Court.
Oh, really?
Her name isn't mentioned in that.
Right.
So she says in my interview with her, she has no beef with WWE. There's nothing, there's no ill will or ill intention that she has towards the company or Vince, but it's like, give the woman the credit where it's due. Like, where is the reciprocity?
Right.
Where's the merch? At least give her a t-shirt, something like,
Where's the royalties? Like, I'm pretty sure,
yeah,
like, I'm pretty sure they're still using. She's still on, the WWE network, and it's being streamed every day, and now it's being sold to Peacock and things of that
yeah,
nature. Like, I just feel like this is kind of like me and Jenna talked about this on our show. This is where I kind of been disconnected from wrestling in general, just not WWE, but just in general, and just constantly seeing how people of color is not, like, the fans, the wrestlers, you want to name, people of color are not being
mm,
respected in that business and industry.
mm,
And after a while, it starts to look like, why we keep giving you our energy? Why we keep putting you on a pedestal, and we can't even get a footnote in your history?
mm,
Like that to me, like that whole situation with Kofi Mania was awesome, but it should never got to that point. Like it
yeah,
should, you know what I mean? Like it should
yeah,
never been to that point. That the only person we can name is The Rock, and then we know that you don't look at The Rock the same way that you look at Kofi Kingston. Like
mm,
you see him as Maivia, you don't see him as Johnson. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of
mm,
that look. You know what I mean? And you look at him as Maivia because you want that bloodline to continue to feed your machine. I'm sorry, back on my soapbox, but it's
no,
just like
it's all good.
that's
Mm,
what I look at it when I look at the industry in general, and it's just been like very hard to stay dedicated to something that you love so much. Like,
yeah.
and I feel like that's
I,
what plays in part when it comes to Jazz and Jacqueline and those people.
Yeah. I mean, and at a certain point, though, and this is just my humble opinion, you have to kind of break those doors. I mean, I come from, just like yourself, I come from a background of the music industry and acting. And if you want to even look at Hollywood, too,
Yeah,
um, people, at some point, you have to just say to yourself, you know what? I have to make my own chapter. If I keep continuing to push and press and ask people who are in my face and not giving me the chances that I feel that I deserve, no matter how hard of work that I'm doing or how hard a job I'm doing, I'm going to have to open that door. Like, I always look to people like Jordan Peele. I mean, though I'm a huge horror fan. Like, horror is my favorite genre. I tell people this all
yeah,
the time.
mine's too.
Film, my favorite. And for the longest time, like, people would look at me and I'd be like, I love horror. And they would say, what? Like, why do you like horror? Like, what is it about the genre? Like, I don't understand. And you look at horror in and of itself and you always see the Black person, like, you know, getting killed first or being the first
person
to
out.
like
Yep.
get chopped. But you're not seeing that anymore because you have people like Jordan Peele who are actively saying, you know what, I'm going to change the narrative. I'm going to have, you know, a 90%, you know, amount of actors cast in this horror film. And I'm going to flip the script and have you figure out who the villain is and who the good guy is, you know? And sometimes those lines are blurred. Sometimes everyone is a villain. Everyone has flaws.
Exactly.
So at the same token, if you look at wrestling, you kind of have to think to yourself, you know what? I need to write my own chapter. It's not going to happen overnight, but I have to show people what I can do. And if it's going to take a few years, it's going to take a few years. But you got to sometimes just like really write yourself into your own story and just have yourself be the star of your own story. And people will catch on. People who used to slam the door in your face, they're going to catch on and they're going to be like, oh, maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I like misjudged this person.
Right.
Sometimes you have to just show what you can do, even if you're doing it to like an audience of none, which unfortunately, that's how a lot of shows are right now. There's very little people out in the stands. So this is, you know, if you want to even link it to that, this year, 2020 and 2021, I believe, you know, since the pandemic started, these are the years that are really going to define a new generation of wrestlers, especially Black wrestlers and Black talent, you know, whether it's someone like myself who has the mic or, you know, commentating, announcing. These are the years where we have to really prove ourselves to an extra level and say, this is who we are. This is what we can do. Like, I'm not going to take no for an answer. I'm going to keep looking around to see where I fit in, you know, and find the places that'll appreciate me. So that's really how I see it when it comes to just, you know, us Black people, African Americans, Black Caribbeans, Latino, just being in spaces that historically wise, you know, there weren't a lot of us and we faced a lot of prejudice, you know, in the very early parts of wrestling. So we have to acknowledge it, but we have to really just like keep fighting and keep forging on because a lot of us are talented and we deserve a place at the table. We deserve a place in the ring or outside of it. So
yeah, definitely.
That's my soapbox.
No, that's fine. As you can say, like I said, this is why it's called Straight Shoe Sundays. You tell your feelings how you feel, whether it be wrestling, whatever it may be. Like, we're here to discuss that. And it's funny that you mentioned like the acting work because me and my wife was just watching Ali. This was her first time. This was her first time seeing it, and after we were done, we was just looking up the rewards and it came out in 2001, and we realized that it was never nominated for an Oscar. Well, it didn't win an Oscar when it should have won an Oscar because the acting between Will Smith, Jamie Foxx, you know, just the people in that realm and was amazing. And the reason why I watched it, did you watch One Night in Miami?
I haven't yet. It's on my list. I have not yet.
Okay, when you do, you say you heard it's phenomenal, yes. I don't really like it.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Only because you want me to tell you I don't like it, or you want to wait till you watch it and then I can tell you. There's no spoilers in it.
Wait till I watch it.
There's no spoilers in my thoughts or anything like that. It's just I don't want to taint the way you look at it. Let me let you watch it and then we'll come back to this. Absolutely. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan of it, which is why I wanted my wife to see Ali. I wanted to see like what I was seeing and what was portrayed was different in my opinion. It made me want to look into Sam Cooke too. I never really followed Sam Cooke's story.
Yeah, I remember hearing about it. I heard about it years and years, you know, but I have to refresh my memory about his backstory. It'll happen.
Yeah, like I feel like when you watch this, you have to go back like, all right, let me see what was this. But what do you like about AEW right now? I know we've been having a lot of heat discussions in the DMs about AEW.
So me, I come besides coming from an acting background, I have a degree in arts management. So I always look at things with a business perspective. Right. So when it comes to All Elite Wrestling, you know, I remember when there was so much buzz about it. Before it was even a promotion, we're talking about when they were just going to have their show, their first show, their pay-per-view event. And I remember hearing the blowback then with people saying, oh, it's just going to be one event. They're not going to make a lot of money. They're not going to sell out tickets. They're not going to do this, and that. And the minute I heard about the news, I was like, they're going to exceed everyone's expectations. Lo and behold, they did, because the amount of just the vision that they had, and the fact that someone was trying to go up against an established promotion that has been around for decades.
Yeah.
And I'm always up for the underdog as it is. So I was like, I'm not surprised that they exceeded ticket sales and they exceeded everyone's expectations. What's funny to me is that when the promotion first started, it was the same thing. It was like, oh, let's see how this goes. And then as time went on, and this is pre-COVID, folks were like, oh, shoot, yeah, so they're actually doing this, and there's things happening, and they're signing all these people, and I think I like this. And it's, you know, then it was like anti-WWE type stuff. Right. And I'm like, I'm here for all promotions because I'm here for all wrestling. The thing about AEW for me, one, is it's something that's fresh. And what makes me crack up is when people just like, I'm all for constructive criticism in any regard. I can like something and still criticize it. I want something to succeed.
Right.
But at the token, it's like you have to give people a chance and let things marinate and let things progress and grow. It's only been around for, what, 2 years now?
Not even.
1.5 or 1.5?
Yeah, about 1.5.
Yeah. And I'm like, where is all this? You can't expect it to be perfect off the jump. If we were seeing the burgeoning of WWE in 2020, 2021, I'm sure everyone would have the same thing. They'd be like, well, what is this? And why are they doing this? And who is this? And what is that? Like, if you look at the very first episode, if you can find it, of WWE, I'm sure you could pick out, like, you know, 10 million things wrong with it, in your opinion, you know?
Me and Jenna go back sometimes and watch the old Raw, and we're just looking at like, yo, how did we get through these episodes?
Exactly. Exactly. You keep going. And that's how I look at All Elite Wrestling. There's some things that I've questioned, but at the same time, it's fresh, it's new. Like, there are many wrestlers on that roster that I came up with that when I was first starting in wrestling in my career, you know, I interviewed these people and I know how talented they are. Right. And I believe in their talent, but I believe in the vision. And I don't believe that someone who is going to a place like AEW would sit there and think, you know, you have to have some sort of vision, not just for yourself and your career, but the promotion that you're working for. You have to see things through and have patience and just work with people. So yes, there are some things that can improve, but I have faith that it will improve. You've got to test things out. And, you know, one of the things that people talk a lot about is the women's division. And I'm like, especially with that, you have to test things out. We're in a pandemic still. Riho just came back. She hadn't been able to travel for a little over a year. Like, give it space. And she came back and she killed it in her match with Serena Deeb. And it's like, you know, you gotta have patience. And I love that they're implementing Japanese wrestlers and they're bringing those guys and girls over here to show what they can do. I mean, I'm watching the women's tournament, and when I was watching the Japanese side for the first episode, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to see all of these women just come in here. I was blown away. I was like, I love this. I love it. And I'm gaining respect for wrestlers that I had never heard of before. I'd never heard of a lot of these women, and they're killing it. So I'm just like, I like the fact that AEW is taking a chance on unknown talent, and not just, you know, in Japan, but we have AEW Dark. And yes, there's no like major storylines that we're seeing. We're seeing, you know, what people want to call squash matches, but at the same side, we're in a pandemic and they're giving people a job. Like, the indie scene is a bit, it's not what it was at all pre-pandemic. So I have to at least give them the fact that they are giving people a job. Like, there's not many places that these wrestlers can go to. So, you know, and they're letting their talents shine on a spotlight. And AEW Dark, it's not on TV, but they're averaging over, when it's live, they're averaging at least 18,000. You know, when I go onto the chat and I see the numbers, when it hasn't even started, and there's at least like 4,000 people waiting for the matches to start. And it takes like a few seconds for the numbers to go up to like over 18,000 in under 2 minutes. So
they wouldn't get that amount at house shows or when they do the indie episodes.
Exactly. So they're making numbers. They're gaining. People are sticking around. The chat is always lit. People talking about who their faves are, who this, who that,
That's how you build stars too, because now you can pick from there. When somebody starts to bubble from there, from AEW Dark, they could pick from there, like, all right, we can put you up here now, because we see that you're starting to gain traction.
Right.
And that's like their like kind of like their system, and it will benefit them in the long run. You see a lot, and I agree with you. Tend to compare AEW to WWE and forget
Mm-hmm.
that WWE's been around for like 40 years,
Yep.
and AEW's been barely a year and a half.
Yeah.
And then they bring up, diversity and blah blah blah. How much diversity did we get from WWE in those 40 years? like, like
Yeah.
we're still fighting for certain things. Like we're
I
still
mean,
saying the first ever. Bianca became the
exactly.
first ever black person to win the
Mhm.
Royal Rumble
Right.
overall. Am I mistaken? If it's not like the Rock one,
Hmm.
and then who else won? You know what I mean?
It's
Like,
an exciting time, right? It's like you got to give things a chance. I mean, AEW, they'll, like I said, they'll get there. They're building, but as far as diversity, I mean, we have Sunny Kiss, Nyla Rose, Sheeta, Carly Bravo. Am I saying is it Charlie or Carly? It's
Carly.
Carly. That's what I thought. Carly Bravo, Sean Dean, Baron Black. I mean, look,
Not
I'm
everybody got
like,
storylines right now, but it's gonna get there.
right,
You can't expect
right.
everything in one shot.
Exactly. And I forgot to mention Willie Hobbs, who was awesome. I mean, do you, as far as diversity goes right now, I think
Tony
they're doing
Starks.
a job. I think they're
Tony
really,
Starks, like
yeah, they're building stars that people, and Lee Johnson, we gotta throw Lee Johnson in there.
Lee
They're
Johnson,
building people who, folks, if you were not privy
Big
to the
Swole. Sorry.
game, yeah, yeah. And it's like, and then, I'm just calling those guys out, but then you gotta look at the Latino side too. Look at who they have. I mean,
Yeah,
they're stacking people up like left and right. We just gotta see where it goes, see what's gonna happen with the storyline, just like wait and see. And we're dealing with a pandemic once again. Like, we're in a pandemic. I'm sure they had things planned that were going to be really great, and the pandemic most likely squashed a lot of the plans that they had. So when this stuff settles down, I think we're going to see a resurgence of like some new storylines, some new people, some folks coming in. We don't even know if there's going to be some folks leaving. Like, you
right.
never know. Never know. That's just the name of the game. So we gotta, I get the criticism, at the same time, it's like, it's not fair to pit them against a company, like you said, that's been around for 2 decades. Like, what, you can't,
Right.
like, you let it marinate. Yes, WWE has Roman Reigns. Like, AEW, let's see who they might
Right.
have another Roman Reigns. You gotta let
And
things
I hate,
shine,
here's the argument I hate. We're gonna start winding this down because I don't usually keep this too long, but we're having a great conversation. I let it rock sometimes.
Yeah.
Here's the comparison I hate. When they put somebody like John Moxley, Chris Jericho, and FTR, and a few of the former WWE people in prominent roles, and like, look, all your stars are from WWE. All your
Mm-hmm.
champions are from WWE. We have Brody Lee and, Cody Rhodes. Like, all your people from WWE. And then the moment that somebody like Miro comes on and chooses to do something different and take a step back and wait for his turn, or, it didn't work out with certain somebody. Oh, see, it was best if you stayed in WWE. I thought you was gonna be a big person in AEW. I'm like, yo, you can't have it both ways. Like, you
Exactly.
can't want them to be all sky to the top and then try, like, see, look, all your people from WWE, and then when they try to take it slow, see, look, you're not doing anything anyway. Like,
Oh gosh.
I love it. I'm like, and my friends think that I'm just like a big AEW mark, and it's just like, I'm not a big AEW mark. I just like to fight for the underdogs. Like,
You
I
know,
love WWE. Like, this is my first love. I still do certain things with the WWE right now.
mhm.
And but it's just like, come on, we can't.
Yeah.
We gotta be impartial.
And I get it, because wrestling fans are so passionate. They want wrestling to succeed. And I see all of the comments on social media, and I check that out, and I'm reading comments. I check out most of the websites like Wrestling Inc. and WrestleZone and all of that. And you read what people are saying, and they want they want the product to do well, because all of this vitriol at the end of the day is because they want wrestling to do better.
Right.
That's why we have these quote unquote Wednesday night wars, and everyone's now all of a sudden into numbers. They want to see which show got bigger numbers
The
on,
demographics.
which is funny to me, because I was like, I didn't know that people were clocking numbers like that in wrestling, like it was Nielsen. I had no idea. But it's fascinating as well that people are so engrossed into, like, how many viewers. But it's also because the way I see it, we're in a new, I think the shift is if it hasn't started, it will start very soon, where you're going to see the industry change in a way that perhaps no one anticipated it to change.
Change the
And
world.
yeah, and I feel like COVID actually pushed that. If it
Yeah.
wasn't going to happen now, it was probably going to happen a little bit later in the future. But I feel like COVID really force people to make, to really question a lot of different things in the industry. And
Yeah.
that's even if you're not even a wrestler, so it's exciting to me because I kind of see where things are falling slowly into place, but we really have to just be patient. And I know that's a hard thing to ask of people, to be patient,
Yeah.
especially in a time in the past year and a half, we've been patient at home. But
For the
when
most
it,
part, some of us, not all of us, some of us.
right, so exactly, but we're not gonna
We're not gonna shame nobody,
we're not
but
gonna shame. We're not gonna COVID shame.
apparently, COVID doesn't live in certain states.
You know, you know. But yeah, I feel with the numbers and these Wednesday night wars
Yeah.
and hey Gary, we have some more visitors. So with these Wednesday night wars, it's really funny because we're seeing Tony Khan go on Twitter. This is something that Vince does not do. Vince does not go on Twitter and talk about the numbers and what the company is doing and how they are looking to go forward with things. So that's one of the things that I really actually like about Tony Khan is he's that
very open.
He goes on Twitter and he's like, so these are the numbers and this is what we're doing and thank you guys for because the company, the promotion has just begun.
They're trying to learn.
Engage. They want people to know what's good. So of course they're not going to spill the beans about everything that's going on in their promotion. Like they're not going to tell you all that. It's just straight business. Like I'm not going to tell you all the inner workings, but at the same time, try to just this is just how I feel. Just wait it out and see how things come about, because when crowds come back, it's gonna be lit. Like I think when crowds come back to the stadium,
I can't wait for this. It's gonna rock the stadium.
It's going to be insane, and then we're gonna start momentum with these storylines and in-ring action, because you also have to think about the wrestlers that are doing this on a weekly basis. Like you have to think about their morale and working in front of little to no crowds. I mean, sometimes you're just not going to have a good night. Sometimes you're going to have a great night, But you have a question, or it looks like a comment.
Yeah.
From Gary.
They're saying that Gary Parkins and Eric Guerrera, 2000, they both from the UK. Shout out to the UK tuned in right now. Are huge Sasha Banks fans, and Sasha and Bianca are going to win the Women's Tag Team Championship time. I don't know about that part. I'm a huge Sasha fan. I'm a huge Bianca fan. But I don't think they're going to win the title tonight. But I like your enthusiasm. I agree
with Gary and Eric. I agree with them. I'm with Sasha and Bianca. Let's go.
It's not going down. But to your point, just to wind this down a bit, I do feel like the biggest thing I have with WWE is that they're in their own bubble, in a sense. Like it's their universe, it's their world, forget everything else. And I love that the way that AEW is implementing Impact, NWA, New Japan. Eventually, I feel like it's gonna be Ring of Honor. We know that there's a hiccup there, and the problem's gonna settle. Settle that soon. But with WWE, it was like when they tried it, they just took any promotions and dissolved them. It was like, no, you're just gonna be NXT. You know what I'm saying? Like I like the way that they left the companies alone and worked with them as opposed to what WWE did. Now we're seeing that Triple H is saying that they're open to work with other promotions, and we're also seeing that Tony Khan was like, "Yo, WWE, let's do something."
Right.
I feel like that would be best for business, no pun intended.
For sure.
If everybody just think about it, how many dream matches will we have to accomplish? And then now the companies don't have to worry about losing their stars. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it's less of a burden on everybody else. Like, oh, I have to be in this company to work with this person, or I have to be. So now I got to put that into my contract. Thinking when the contract comes, do I want to stay here for the next 5 years and just not have a chance to work with this person ever again? You know what I'm saying? Like, it takes away all of that, and we have such a better product. But as we know, WWE sees company first. They see entertainment first. So that's probably not going to happen.
You never know, though. Never
say never.
Right. What they say in the business, or just in general, never say never. I mean, who saw AEW coming together with Impact, and you never know. There might be like a big super show.
I called it. I called that. I said that. I did when AEW first started. I definitely called it on our show. Like I feel like AEW would be the type of people that brings everybody together. I thought it was going to be New Japan first, but of course
Same. Yes.
the pandemic situation probably like hindered that. There was
Yeah.
some ego things going on allegedly, but I seen AEW being open to work like this because
Mm.
you know that's the indies in a
Exactly.
sense, and AEW is just
Yeah.
like the indies but on a
Yeah.
bigger stage.
Bigger
So
scale.
and
Yeah.
it helps everybody. Look how when Kenta popped up, look how it helped AEW.
I
Like
popped. I
like
popped. I was like,
I saw it on
Kenta!
Twitter after the fact. I was like, wait, what? And I had to go back and watch the whole episode. Like, I would have watched this in a
Yes.
moment. Like, but then when was the last time we had a feel like that for WWE? Even
Mm.
before the pandemic. You know what I mean? Like,
I feel you. Yeah.
it becomes so cookie cutting and so generic that we're just gonna. It's like we watch it because it's part of our routine, as opposed to we watching it because we can't wait to see what's gonna happen.
Absolutely. And Gary, I agree with you again, Gary. I do think Roman will win.
Yeah,
I like where
apparently.
that's going.
I don't think we're good. I think the road to WrestleMania is headed for Edge versus Roman.
Yeah. That's what it's looking like now. I know. Roman, yes. I like
I don't
Edge.
think Edge had to win the Royal Rumble to do this.
AEW rules. I agree as well.
Yeah,
Gary. Oh, I like Gary.
yeah, Gary's on it, but I don't think I don't.
Brilliant.
That's a whole other discussion. I don't think Edge should have won. He didn't need to win for this to happen. Um, he's a legend. He could have came in to any promotion in any side of the brand and do what he needed to do.
You
Um,
know, he. This is a whole other conversation because I know you want to wind it down.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
thinking about Edge, and then thinking about Edge, I'm thinking about Sting, and there's this whole like
So how
controversial.
about this? How about this? I'm pretty sure Jenna would be down. When me and
Yes,
Jenna start having guests again, we're definitely gonna have you on the
I
regular
love it.
show, and
Thank you.
we'll have a whole hour.
Yes, I would
Even though
love
this
that.
turns out to be almost an hour, I usually try to do this like 30, 45 minutes. But when
Oh,
conversations are good, I usually just like, all right, let it rock. Who's gonna stop me? But
I would
IG
love
Live, we only have an hour, so I always try to like cap it a little bit before then.
perfect.
But we will have you back on the show. I'm gonna talk to Jenna.
Yeah.
You set a schedule, put you on. We start doing guests again.
Uh,
I enjoyed this conversation. I enjoyed having
Me
you on. Thank you for
too.
joining me.
You're welcome. Thank you
uh,
for having me. My first IG live. I'm like, dude, I like this. I
no,
like
no
it.
problem, no problem. Next week we're gonna have JT from Old Face Wrestling Podcast
Oh,
join me on Straight Shoot Sundays. It's gonna be. I moved it from I used to be 5 p.m. I used to 3 p.m. So it can be easier for everybody, and they can go on about the day, especially with pay-per-view days like today. I have to make a run real quick and start cooking up some chicken, some wings, or
ooh.
whatever for
Get ready
tonight.
for the PPV.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. But thank you so much. Again, tell everybody
Thank
where
you
they can
for
find
having
you,
me.
all your social media accounts, everything that
Yeah,
you're working on. This is your platform. This is where you can plug it in at.
absolutely. So yes, you can find me on Instagram. I almost said Twitter first. I'll do Instagram first at that girl Candace 16. That's that girl GIRL CANDACE 16. And on Twitter, you can find me at Candace Cordelia. That's CANDACE CORDELIA. If you want to find me on Facebook, I'm rarely, if ever, on it. But if you want to find me on there, you can find me through Candace Smith. And yeah, if you have any questions, if you have any leads of wrestlers that you want me to interview or anyone in the wrestling industry as well, just send them over. And yeah, just stay safe, stay healthy out there, guys.
See
And
now,
Gary, you're amazing. Like, you're
from that alone, I have two more questions before we get off. Like real quick, it's real quick
no
answers.
doubt.
One, where did Cordelia come from?
That's another great question. So it comes from it was my dad's mother's middle name.
Okay.
And they decided to give me that middle name. So
Oh,
that is
okay.
my actual middle name. That's not a made up. I use it for my stage name or gimmick, if you want to say, for my wrestling career and acting. But yeah, and also I like the alliteration. So I've just
Right.
kept it for quite some time. But that's where it comes from. Yeah, yeah.
Because you said Candace Smith. I'm like, who the heck is Candace Smith?
Yeah, that's
Last
my
name
real
Cordelia.
last name. It's generic, like
Yeah, I
everyone
can
and their
see that.
mom's last name.
I can see that. Like, nah, I don't want to go by that. Like, no, I can't wait to get married.
Exactly.
Say nah.
You know, and there's another Candace Smith. The other reason why I didn't want to go with that, because if you're on IMDb, which is like a website for
Yeah.
actors, you know the deal. I think there's like 2 other Candace Smiths. So at one point I was like, I don't want to be Candace Smith 3, 4, whatever.
The
I was like,
third, the fourth.
Exactly. I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna do something different so you don't get confused. So
That's
yeah,
very good. That's a good
that's what I
decision.
do.
Second question: did you watch Hamilton?
You know what? I will admit I have not watched Hamilton yet. I have Disney Plus,
What?
and it's funny you mentioned that because 2 days ago, because I was writing a story, an article, and it had to do with Hamilton, like it was Hamilton linked, and I was like, what? I haven't yet. I don't know. I have not watched Hamilton.
I don't watch it like 4 times already. I don't listen to
Oh
the
my
soundtrack
god.
like 13 times.
I need to see it on Broadway. I really.
I wanted to, but with the pandemic, I don't know what's gonna happen. But I like after seeing
Yeah.
after I've seen it on Disney Plus, I was like, I really regret not seeing this live.
Yeah, I'm gonna carve out some time. You know what? When I have my spring break next month, I'm gonna carve out time and watch it because I will have time to worry about nothing else but
Right.
sleeping, eating, watching, catching up on Netflix and all that good stuff, Disney Plus. So yeah, it's on my queue like 100 million other things, but I'll get to it.
Make sure you put that on the top.
You know, one at a time, one at a time. And I don't know if you saw Gary's comment. He wanted either Daniel Bryan or Cesaro to win the Rumble, but I didn't mind Edge win. That's how I feel. Like, I don't mind Edge winning, but do I prefer him to win?
I thought it could have been used better.
Yeah. I would love if Daniel Bryan, you know.
I think he's more so like I'm trying to take the background stage. Like
Yeah.
I think he's done. He's like, all right, I had my moments. I'm content.
Yeah, let me just lift everyone else up. Yeah. He's that type of guy. Yeah.
Definitely love Daniel Bryan, but he does. All right, guys, that's Straight Shoe Sundays.
Right.
Thank you for joining me, Candace Cordelia Smith, all of that. Catch me next week with JT. We're from Old Face Wrestling Podcast, and peace.
Peace. Bye, guys.
How do I get out of this? Okay, there we go.